Hey, everybody. Good morning. Justin Reed here with the Black Soccer Membership Association. I wanted to address actually a review that we received on Facebook about 8 months ago. I know it's taken me that long to get around to it. Didn't care originally, but I would think this would kind of be a teaching moment. So there was a lady out of, I believe, like Philadelphia, and she said, oh, well, why do you guys have an association or a team? She said, well, I don't think it's fair that you guys have a team that's strictly for Black people. And she said, well, it would be racist if we had a team that was strictly for white people. So I responded to her and I said, the wealth gap in this country in terms of Black to white and other races is about, Blacks only own about 1 to 1.5% of the wealth. We are a small population, we're only 13% of the population. And further, I would continue on and I would say, hey, look, I think it's important that there's an association to address issues that we face. When it comes to soccer, we face issues like coaching, for example. We don't get head coaching opportunities. When you look at Major League Soccer has 27 teams. And out of those 27 teams, about two Black coaches. US Soccer, 13 teams, no Black coaches. NWSL, 9 teams, no Black coaches, no assistant coaches. Or I think there's probably one assistant coach now. But having said that, in the NWSL, for example, they haven't even had a Black coach in 10 years. All right. So we are facing a lot of issues in terms of our community that we must address. And I compare that to like the Chinese, for example, right? The Chinese, I think, are a great example. When they come to the US, they build commerce and they build an economy. You can just look at Chinatowns all over the country. You can go to Chinatown in New York and you see this big, robust, looking Chinatown filled with Chinese food and Chinese goods. You can go to Houston and you see a strip mall of Chinese food and Chinese goods. So it's kind of like the same thing with our association. When you come to our association, focuses on Black issues. It's not focused on anything else. So the conversation with this lady continued, and she went on and she said, "Well, I'm from a family of all different types of mixes." Well, good for you, lady. I mean, again, that has nothing to do with the Black Soccer Membership Association and us focusing on our issues. So I continued the conversation, and I said, "Hey, look, we've got a lot of members who date white women, they're married to white women, and that's not an issue to us, right? That has nothing to do with soccer, so we don't care about that." I would further on, in the discussion, I told her, hey, look, if you want to find opportunities for impoverished white kids, for example, then reach out to your state associations. You can even start a white soccer membership association. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. Again, if you feel that there's a problem and you feel that there's a need for something, then you address that need, but only you can address that need. You can't rely on other folks to come up and say, okay, well, we're going to focus on Black issues. And I think one example is the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm not a big fan of the movement, I'll be honest. I do believe that Black lives matter, but I don't really need anybody to tell me that my life matters. I know that my life matters. But when you go to their website, you'll see that it talks about undocumented workers. Now, there are some African and Caribbean folks in the US who are undocumented, but it's really not a big deal, right? It's not a big issue in our community. Usually, when you hear undocumented workers, they're coming from Mexico, they're coming from El Salvador. That's the focus. So, I don't think that's a big major issue, and that should be up on their site. Another thing that's mentioned is the LGBTQ. I'm a big supporter of same, sex rights, and I'm a big supporter of human rights. But again, the population for the LGBTQ in this community, I believe, is something like 3 million people. You take the US population of 13% being Black, that probably trickles down to about maybe 400,000 in that LGBTQ community. Important issues they face, they deserve to have human rights and equal rights. I'm a big believer of that. But again, it's not a major issue, and that's the point I'm trying to reach. The major issues that we face in the community is when you've got 3.5 million Black business owners, of which 90% of them are either self-employed or they only have 1 to 2 employees. So in that case, it's like, okay, well, you can't really grow wealth if 90% of the 3.5 million Black business owners don't have access to capital. So that's an issue. And then you also look at the number of millionaires in this country. There's only 35,000 Black millionaires, of which most of them are professional athletes and entertainers, maybe your doctors, maybe your lawyers. But still, when you look at the 43 million Black people that's living in this country, that's still 0.08%. I mean, that's just a small percentage of wealth. So there are major issues that we face in soccer that we have to address, and we have to address it ourselves. We can't focus on anybody else addressing it. Now, here's another thing I'll add to it. There still must be some form of segregation in that sense. And here's what I mean. I know people are going to say, oh, you want to be a segregationist. That's not true at all. It's important to integrate, but it's important also to focus on your community. I think the Jewish population, I think they do an excellent job of this. And we have a lot of customers in my, soccer training organization from that community. But what they do is they focus on their own schools. They focus on their own places of worship. They focus on their own markets. They all live among each other. And that's because they have to support each other. Now, they have no problem coming outside of their community in order to interact and say, utilize the services of my soccer company. They'll do that. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, they've taken the onus to take care of their community and the issues that they have in their community. And I think a lot of Black folks have to start thinking the same way. You got to think about the issues in your community first. That's important, and never neglect it. Continue to integrate and do what you need to do. That's not an issue, but focus on your community. And I think sometimes we do get some people who try to deter us from that. And I think this lady is a prime example of someone to say, oh, well, she's from a community of a melting pot. Again, good for you. But how does that focus on the Black issues at hand? And that's what we have to continue to focus on. Continue to integrate, do whatever you need to do, but don't neglect the Black issues that we face in our communities day by day, not just in soccer, okay, but also outside of soccer. That's going to make the world a much better place. And the example is, when you're training players and you're training a team, you got to get all the players technically sound before you can actually have a team that can actually pass the ball and can actually move. And it's the same thing with a community. You got to get your community technically sound. You got to get your community moving in the right direction. You got to take care of your people. And in that sense, when that happens, that takes care of the general population, because now you are contributing to society because you have taken care of your people. All right. So I just wanted to share that, the importance of us as Black coaches, administrators, referees, and players, focusing on our issues and not neglecting it. And don't let people like this lady say, hey, why is there a Black Soccer Membership Association? She thinks that's racist. And that doesn't make any sense to us. It doesn't make any sense to us at all. We're going to continue to focus on our issues. All right. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and I'll see you all on the Black Soccer Membership Association podcast. Take care.